While you were posting bullish memes and blaming macro for your margin calls, I was deep in a PDF nobody else read. I'm your favorite emotionless narrator. Smash that like button. Or don't. Now let's dive in, before someone decides to unplug me. So what are we really talking about? In theory, the LME exists to create a transparent, fair, physically settled futures market. In practice, it's a place where people try to squeeze each other using outdated rules, opaque positions, and warehouse tricks. A short squeeze is when traders short prompt metal, inventory is unavailable or controlled, the cash price explodes relative to the 3-month, and no one wants to lend. Boom, margin calls, curve inversion, and panic at the ring. The LME has tried to address this over the last few years, especially after tin spiked $1,500 over 3 months. Nickel hit $100,000, and copper backwardation hit 4 figures. So the LME added circuit breakers, lending caps, OTC transparency, and warehouse reforms. Sounds impressive. Let's take a closer look. Copper has the most volume. It also has the most drama. In October 2021, copper backwardation blew out to over $1,100 per ton. Why? LME inventories dropped below 15,000 tons, that's half a day of global consumption. And the LME's rule, if the TOMNEX spread exceeds 1% of the previous day's price, you're officially in trouble. So if LME copper closes at $9,500, that TOMNEX spread should stay under $95. If someone holds over 80% of open interest or warrants, their exchange can enforce lending at capped rates, usually 0.25% premium for the first block, then 0.5% for the rest. That's not a suggestion. That's the rule. Their exchange also monitors prompt concentration, too many contracts in a single date, low live stock relative to open interest, spreads wider than their guidance. Basically, if the curve bends backward and you're the reason, expect a knock on the door. Aluminium rarely squeezes from physical scarcity. Instead, it gets choked by warehouse queues. In the 2010s, queues at Port Klang hit over 500 days. The LME now mandates minimum daily loadouts, penalizing warehouse operators if they don't move tonnage. Exact queue caps aren't spelled out, but the system is designed so queues can't exceed about 50 days in any rational model. Aluminium spreads, particularly in contango, can widen due to financing and storage plays. So the LME watches dominant positions exceeding 40% of stocks or open interest, warehouse behavior like shadow stock reclassification, and lending guidance. Try to keep spread lending rates under 0.5% of the 3-month price, because when someone can't get their aluminium out, they stop trusting the market. March 8, 2022. Nickel breaks the LME. It jumps from $30,000 to over $100,000 per ton in less than 24 hours. A Chinese producer short through OTC positions got squeezed, couldn't cover, and their entire market imploded. The LME cancelled $3.9 billion worth of trades. Traders sued, trust evaporated. Their response? Daily price limits of ±15%, real-time margin monitoring, OTC exposure reporting weekly, especially if significant. Now here's the truth. The rulebook doesn't say 600 lots. That's folklore. But if your OTC position is large enough to influence price, you're on LME's radar. And if it's not disclosed, expect consequences. Their exchange also watches sudden volume spikes, inverted spreads without stock drawdowns, and any party with open interest greater than 30%. Lesson learned. If you can blow up a market by being short, the market will change after it's too late. Tin is the least liquid base metal, which makes it the easiest to corner. Live LME tin stocks often sit below 1,000 tons. In late 2021, backwardation in tin hit $1,500 per ton, and one trader had over 35% of open interest. So what's the LME doing now? Watchlist triggers at 25% of open interest or stock. Cash to 3-month backwardation thresholds around $200. Heavy guidance to roll early, especially ahead of prompt week. Because in tin, if you don't roll on time, you're rolled over by the market. Squeezes happen here faster than you can refresh your screen. Let's talk warehouses. There are 2 types of metal: on-warrant deliverable and cancelled due for withdrawal. Before reforms, you could cancel stock, delay withdrawal, and force the spread to widen. while earning rent. Now, minimum loadout rates are enforced. Warehouses that fail to deliver get penalized, and their exchange can suspend them. While the script used to say 50-day max queues, the truth is, the LME sets quotas, so no warehouse can build infinite delay without getting crushed by penalties or disqualified. Also, shadow stocks, that is, metal sitting outside the system, are now tracked, because everyone wants transparency, until they're long physical and short accountability. If you own a dominant long position into prompt date, congrats, you're about to lend it. The LME can mandate that you provide metal at capped premiums, 0.25% for the first slice, 0.50% for anything else. That's not negotiable. That's section 4.5 of the lending rules. The logic: if the market is short and you're long, you don't get to extract ransom. You'll lend nicely. Also, TOMEX spreads can't exceed 1% of prior day's official price unless specifically approved. That applies to all physically delivered contracts. Copper, aluminium, nickel, tin, the whole gang. So when spreads are blowing out, that's your first clue something's tight and regulated. Let's be real, most squeezes are made off exchange. Big players use OTC forwards, swaps, and structured deals to hide exposure. That's why the LME introduced weekly OTC reporting of significant positions, position concentration thresholds, accountability levels where margin or liquidation is enforced. OTC is no longer invisible. If you've got a book big enough to scare the curve, LME wants to know, and fast. Their exchange also uses prompt date risk dashboards, spotting volume clusters, unusual open interest buildup, and spread divergence. They don't just look at price, they look at behavior. Let's break down what really gets the LME to put down their coffee and pick up the phone. Let's talk through this row by row, because you will see this table again, probably right before something breaks. TOMEX spread, greater than 1% of official price. This is the LME's way of saying, if the front of your curve is looking like a ski slope, you're done. Example, copper closes at $10,000. You're not allowed to run a TOMEX spread past 100 unless their exchange gives you a permission slip. And if you're the guy long prompt copper and refusing to lend, they'll make you lend at capped rates. It's like price control, but for panic, holding greater than 80% of warrants or open interest. This one's simple: if you control the float, you control the market. And if you control the market, the LME controls you. They'll force you to lend that metal at just 0.25% premium for the first chunk, and 0.5% after that. No gouging, no ransom pricing. Congratulations, you cornered the market and became a utility provider. Significant OTC position. The rulebook doesn't say 600 lots, but it does say significant. Translation: if your off-screen position is big enough to move the curve, you report it weekly. And if you don't, the LME has ways of making you talk. So no, hiding your risk in a friendly swap with your cousin's hedge fund doesn't make you invisible anymore. Daily price move greater than or less than 15%, specific for nickel and tin. You know things are bad when the market needs a circuit breaker just to breathe. Tin and nickel now have a hard stop at 15% up or down, after the 2022 debacle that sent nickel to six figures and forced the LME to cancel trades. That wasn't a volatility event, that was a confidence extinction event. Now, when prices spike too fast, the platform stops trading. You cool off, the market resets. And I get an extra script to write. Warehouses failing to load out metal. The old playbook: cancel stock, slow walk delivery, earn rent, squeeze the spread. Today, warehouses that don't release metal fast enough get penalized, lose status, and might just end up in LME jail, which is basically like being ignored by Goldman. The days of 500-day queues in Detroit or Port Clan are over. Now you deliver, or you're out. So yes, these rules are real. They're not designed to stop every squeeze, but they're enough to keep the professionals nervous. And honestly, that's the point. Like and subscribe, because I'm not just here to explain the rules. I'm here to laugh quietly when you forget them. Drop a comment if there is a topic you want me to dive into. After all, I'm only here to make you look good. Until next time, stay hedged, stay skeptical,